Hi, I'm Charlotte Kelsey Cox. I was also known as Lottie. This is a sketch of me based on an artist's guess from a photo of me, and from my siblings. I am the daughter of Easton Kelsey and Abigail Finch. I was born on the 18th of November 1856 in Little Cottonwood, Utah. My father Easton Kelsey was called by Brigham Young to help quarry rock for the building of the Salt Lake Temple. My mother's name was Abigail Finch. My father took her with him to the quarry site where she helped to cook, and this is where I was born. The first three children of Abigail and Easton were Orson, Louisa, and Easton, and they were born in Nauvoo, Illinois. The next child, Abigail, was born in Canesville. Orrin and Elizabeth were born in South Cottonwood, Utah. As mentioned, I was born in Little Cottonwood. My younger siblings, Delta, William, and Margaret, were born in Midvale and St. George, Utah. Later my family moved to Ash Creek, Washington County, Utah. My mother ran an inn. She also ran a dairy of milk cows. My dad was away most of the time building and running mills. When 15 years old, I went with my family on a visit to the Muddy Mission. My sister Louisa Kelsey Clement lived there at this time. While visiting, I met DeLon Mills Cox. He asked me if I would marry him. That was a surprise. Marriage wasn't on my mind. My answer was a no. He told me if I ever changed my mind, to let him know. My family encouraged me to accept his proposal. I finally did so. We took the 15-day trip to Salt Lake City. My brother William, who was 5 or 6 years old at the time, came along with us. Lon and I were married in the Salt Lake Endowment House by Daniel H. Wells. DeLon was 21 and as mentioned I was 15. My father Easton Kelsey was called to practice polygamy. He had 3 wives and 23 children. 6 died. So, I had 17 siblings who lived to adulthood. We lived in Orderville, Utah, and we were the 3rd family to finish a home there. We lived the United Order until it was discontinued in 1884. We all ate together and shared all things as needed. We really prospered, and these were very happy times. We shared responsibilities, and mine included cooking, weaving, and working with the silkworms. DeLon was also called to be a polygamist, and so he and I found a wife for him. Her name was Susan Brown. DeLon and I had 13 children, and Susan and DeLon had 9 children. At a time the marshals were trying to arrest all the men in the church who were practicing polygamy, and Orderville was a hotbed for the marshals to go after. DeLon had a mill and it supplies the town with flour, but all the men had to go into hiding so they would not be put into prison. I and the children keep the mill going so the town would be supplied with flour, and at night the men would come out of hiding and help with the work. The children would be scattered around the hills and other places and found ways to warn the men to hide because the marshals were around. There was some close calls for us. I and the women tried to hide because the marshals would try to trick us to tell them where our husbands were at. The marshals used buggies so they were easy to see coming. We truly loved music in our home. I was told I was a good singer. People commented that I had good communication skills and that I never swore. I loved serving in the church and was a counselor in the Relief Society for many years. The children and grandchildren were always such good playmates with each other. Our youngest son Orson was the same age as our grandchild Lester, son of Henry and Elvira Cox Blackburn, and they were playmates in Orderville. Leonard, our son, asked us to move to Idaho. His wife, Armony Esplin, was very ill, and Leonard needed our help through his difficulties. It was there in Idaho that something happened to me. One of my daughters reported that in a patriarchal blessing I received, I was promised I would never taste of death. On the 22nd of July in 1918, a thunderstorm came on quickly. I said to DeLon, "Oh Lon, we've got to cover the beehives. I took off and hurried from the house. Delon followed right behind. I walked through the orchard. I was near our beehives when lightning struck a large cottonwood tree, splitting it in half, and it grounded and killed me instantly. To look on the bright side, I didn't have to suffer the pains of death that most do. My husband, Delon Cox, paid this tribute to me after I passed. It meant a lot to me. Charlotte has been kind, loving, self-sacrificing, industrious, and a true helpmate to me for more than 47 years. She was always a wise, judicious counselor. She bore 13 children. She has always been an energetic worker and has done even more than her part. She was always a peacemaker. She was a nurse for all those around her and a friend to all. She was always modest and unassuming. When in extreme poverty and with comparative plenty shone on us, she was the same, true as steel. When I took her as a wife, I was transferred in a great measure, from a lonely and dreary world into 47 years of lovely springtime and sunshine. When in her presence, no matter where we were, I felt at home. Fine furniture and houses have not been necessary for our happiness. When trouble came to me, she willingly carried half or all the load. When sorely tried, she sympathized with me. When ill, she did all in her power to bring me back to health. She was industrious to a fault, from early morning till late at night in caring for her family, and ministering to neighbors in sickness and need. She was a model of virtue and the best friend I had for nearly half a century.